AI has got a bad rap. It always has been equated for people losing jobs, and it's going to be a disruptor in a negative way. The leadership has to be taught, has to be made understood the importance of AI. It's just the same way when the calculator was introduced, how it made mathematics so easy. So AI has to be promoted as an additional resource for our kids, for businesses, for companies. It should not be seen as the last frontier, which is unknown. These kind of conversations are going to help engaging not only the intelligence community, not only the intellectuals, but more importantly, the leadership, because they got to not fear it, embrace it.
Welcome back once again to the World Digital Governance Dialogues. We've been hearing earlier from different folks from the industry, especially people from the intelligence area. We've talked then about policy and lawmakers. So obviously, the next question is, talking to people who are in the political arena around political activism. We know political activists play a great role in the country. Some of them become presidents of countries like President Obama here in the United States. We're going to be talking today to a very interesting guest here. The gentleman's name is Mr. Puneet Ahluwalia. Puneet has been in the political arena for over 20 years, works very closely with congressmen, senators, governors, and across party lines, and has been very influential. He's kind of the voice behind the ear, at least here in Virginia, when people, kind of look to him on how they should think about policy making. So, Puneet, welcome.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for having me here.
Well, it's great that you're here, Puneet, and I know you and I have chatted a lot earlier when you were running for your Lieutenant Governor election. You were kind of very closely working with Governor Youngkin back then.
We were traveling together for 10 months, and then I became his Asian American chair when he was nominated for governor, and then he became governor. And so I meet him. He's done a great job for Virginia. And of course, I do know the Attorney General and Winsome Sears, who I was running against. So yes, very active in Virginia and in the federal side too.
Yeah. So, Puneet, as an activist, what is you're hearing about what's happening in AI? What are some of your sort of hot buttons there? What do you think about when you think about AI? And again, then we'll go further into what some of the opinion making is and policy making is around that.
Well, good. First thing is, Ed, I'm so glad you're doing this conversation. It's so needed because AI has got a bad rap. It always has been equated for people losing jobs, and it's going to be a disruptor in a negative way. So I think it's more important that people who are listening and who are participating in this, they're going to embrace it. I think this is a change. It's a positive change. And it's going to be helpful not only in one facet, but in all facets. So it is coming. It is part of, AI is part of our life. And it's important how folks like you and the leadership community embrace it and help to bring in the good governance rather than the chaos that's been created thanks to a lot of media in that regard. But I only see a positive and upside to it.
So when you're talking to a lot of the policymakers, are they sort of actively trying to educate themselves on AI? Because one of the things that I'm very passionate about is AI. I know you personally have been talking to me, and we've been having conversations, and thanks for being here, to kind of further that dialogue. Of course, I'm not asking for names, but how much are leaders actually investing their energy to just go, of course, other than trying to search online, to actually go through some sort of formal understanding of what this is?
Well, Ed, you were very intimately involved in my election. So most political leaders are more focused on winning elections and raising money. They'll leave the thinking part of it to their subject matter experts. And I think those are the people we need to influence. I think they are the ones who ultimately influence the leadership in the direction to go. And it all depends on who has presented them the case and how effectively they have presented the case. And I think more importantly is storytelling. It's telling how AI really helps in strengthening our education system. More importantly, how it compels and propels the United States to be the leader, which we are and we should be, and position ourselves, not be in competition. And we have to work as a global community also on AI. But the important thing is that the leadership has to be taught, has to be made understood the importance of AI. It's just the same way when the calculator was introduced, how it made mathematics so easy. Now, everybody who was doing retail or doing any kind of business was using calculators. So AI has to be promoted as an additional resource for our kids, for businesses, for companies. It should not be seen as the last frontier, which is unknown. And these kind of conversations are going to help engaging not only the intelligence community, not only the intellectuals, but more importantly, the leadership, because they got to not fear it, embrace it.
And do you see that there's still a lot of fear there?
Oh, yes, there is. Because you always are unknown, and whatever you read is whatever kind of is being read is losing jobs. But what I also hear is starting to see the articles more about how the positive impact of AI is, especially when most of these educational business schools are incorporating AI into the MBA. Students are learning MBA now. It helps the MBA kids or graduates to compete with engineers, because not only they have the technical skill set, but the MBAs now have a second brain to lean on. It's more like the intern they didn't have, now they have that. So I think it's all how you tell the story, how you build the narrative on the importance and the relevance of AI.
You mentioned subject matter experts.
Yes.
So are officials, like, is the government sort of, trying to actively seek for these subject matter experts to come and help shape policy today at the grassroots level, let's say at the federal, state level, or the county level? Like, how is this being done?
Well, unfortunately, we are living in a very polarized world, or political world we live in. So most parties don't really talk now. It's just that how do you use to win elections? Or more importantly, how do you impact it in making sure our defense are strong, or we are on the cutting edge of various important facets, which is energy, food, and defense, most importantly. So I think folks like yourself, or people who understand, have embraced it, are already leading their charge. I think eventually people will catch up onto it. We're just scratching the surface at this point. Any technology, it takes a little time to adapt and adopt. And once you have adapted and adopted it, I think it just becomes second nature to us. And so I think we are moving in the right direction, and these kind of dialogues are important. And again, the world digital governance is so important because it's very chaotic. And I heard one of your guest speakers spoke earlier that we need to create these swim lanes, or these directions, or these road stops, the bumps, which will help to bring some bit of clarity so there's less chaos.
The kind of advice that you're giving to folks, how are you sort of keeping yourself abreast in what's happening, with the latest in AI, and how are you sort of trying to stay personally at the forefront of this?
You have to realize most common people are not engaged to that level, folks like ourselves. Once you have, with friends like yourself, you taste blood, or you get infused with the opportunity to climb the Everest. This is what it is, I believe, for folks like myself who are not technologically very savvy. But AI is such a great field that you want to learn and understand more. And I'll give an example. I was reading an article, with the food production as the population is growing, how AI is going to help. It's going to help the farmers to use the exact number of fertilizer rather than wasting 40 to 80% of it. And how we're going to get the maximum result from that yield. At the same time, which item on the shelf is what people are going to use. It's already predictive analytics are already there, but AI is going to refine it and reduce the wastage in that regard. So I'm very optimistic. I'm very positive about the role of AI in the world we are in. And I think we just scratched the surface. I think as our students, our kids start to learn AI, and I think when I was running for board of supervisor last year, I really felt that because we oversee the budget of county budget, the school budget, it's so important to incorporate AI into our learning today. And that's how the kids are not going to face a concern. When you don't understand, like when I was growing up, math or biology was a big challenge for me. To some extent, it still is. But if you dumb it down and you make it easier, I think once people start to see it, they start to enjoy it. And that's what we need to do, is create our kids to understand AI as a resource. And hence the reason I use the word embrace. So I think if we have to embrace it from the kindergarten level all the way to the top leadership, which is so important.
Education was one of the key topics that you've been very passionate about as you've been through some of your previous campaigns. Other than education, what other areas do you see? You mentioned agriculture. Do you see security? I know police was a big factor. Do you see citizen security as a big area where AI would be applied here?
I think AI is going to be part of every day of our life, not only in the United States, but all over the world. It's just like mobile phone. I think everybody needs it and uses it now. AI is going to be the way to help someone living, as you and I both come from India, very proud of our heritage. I think it's going to help the developing nations to really get on speed. And I think it's a great opportunity for developing and emerging nations to adopt AI and really be on the cutting edge of it. And that's what has happened for why the Indian Americans are so successful in the technology factor, because of the technology that really organically mushroomed in India, and all these kids and young people who came to the United States and really changed the trajectory of technology in the United States, because of course we had the innovative people, innovations were happening, but we didn't have the people to implement that innovation. So now small countries or landlocked countries or countries which do not have the technology, but if they adopt AI, they could be a huge game changer, not only in one facet of their lives, but in all facets. That's how I'm looking at it.
And I love that idea that this is a global topic, not just an American topic. I think one of, maybe switching gears a little bit, one of the topics is, how do you see this? Because you're a political activist, you're also a small business owner, you're also a hotelier. You've done a lot of things. You ran a mortgage, let's say, very successful mortgage company for many years. But how do you see all this as a citizen, as a consumer, when you're kind of on the buying side, on the buying aisle, and you're making a purchase on Amazon, when you're actually trying to shop, how do you see it as a consumer, or when you're actually the one voting and not the one asking for the vote? When you're in those shoes, what do you feel, and how do you feel about the privacy issues and the data and the use of AI?
Well, that's the reason why you have governance. And we as Americans are very proud of our rights, our individual liberty and rights. And if we ensure those are not going to be protected, there won't be an overreach from the government or from bad actors. Hence the reason why we have to make sure that we protect and have the safeguards put in place. So that's the reason why governance is important, rules and accountability is important, and the rule of law should follow in this regard. So otherwise it would be a wild, wild west, and that's the reason why structure is important. And hence the reason, as a citizen, change is coming. You can't do anything about a change. It's part of your life. It's part of evolution. The first person who saw the tire or the round,
The wheel.
the wheel, thank you, saw an opportunity where it could take us. Now we're using the wheel in so many different fashions. Same thing with AI. It's all how we use that wheel or the fire to really, is it going to keep us warm or is it going to burn us out? So what's important is good governance, and more importantly, rules and regulations are going to help people stay in the swim lanes, and more importantly, bring the necessary change. As the population grows, as I said earlier, we live in a divisive world. AI can be really used in negative and by bad actors. So if we put these checks and balances in place, I think there's a positive role for AI and technology to play an important role, especially starting from the student all the way to the top leadership.
Well, Puneet, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Before we go, just want to get from you a shout out to your community. I know you're very networked, in the community. What would you say to the community members, and of course the political machinery that you're part of? Why should they participate in this dialogue? Why is this dialogue important? Why it's important for, say, Governor Youngkin or Justin Miyares to be on a stage like this, or Congressman?
Well, Aditya, thank you for first is really creating a play field for AI and telling stories and having people come and speak about this. I'll echo to my friends and allies, and this is, AI is here, let's embrace it, and let's find resources to allocate so that we can do more of this, and more importantly, bring in rules and regulations and checks and balances to ensure that we use AI in a very effective fashion, and that's going to make the life of a common citizen only better, and not only for citizens, but entrepreneurs, as countries, as emerging nations, to take advantage of this great, huge opportunity. So I think it's an asset, it's a second brain, and more importantly, it's for us to allocate resources. The biggest challenge I see is that when we don't understand, we don't want to allocate resources because you don't want to hit yourself in front of the bus. Oh, geez, you tried something, it failed. But I think AI is here to stay. Let's support small, mid-sized companies, especially with large companies who are making a great inroads into this, like the Microsoft. They have a certain responsibility to help tell the story. And this initiative is great.
Well, thank you, Puneet. Thank you for the support for the initiative. Thank you for being here. Well, folks, you saw here Puneet Ahluwalia, political activist, industry leader, as well as a very successful businessman here in Virginia, on stage talking to us about world digital governance. And his shout out to his friends within the political arena and in the community is that, hey, this AI is here to stay. There is a need for balance between large corporations who are sort of in control of AI today and the small businesses, and of course the citizens. Governance and privacy is at the very forefront here. And we need to be treading carefully, but at the same time accelerating AI for the benefit of humanity, for all the good things that he talked about today. So thank you again, and we appreciate you as viewers listening and watching this, and to all 8 billion people out there in participating in this World Digital Governance Dialogue.